Yeah, let's do that. Okay. Let's see. How to create a Savage Worlds character. Let's do it. How to create a Savage Worlds character. And my writing is horrible, guys. So it is horrible. Even when I did my internship, my last semester, uh, when I was working on my degree, I did a history class. I did it with eight other graduates, and every time it was my turn to, because we would rotate lectures every so many amount of days, and people would always say, can you rewrite that letter again? Could you rewrite that letter again? But honestly, I don't think my writing is that bad compared to some of the other people that were literally just scratching on the board. It was horrible. But anyways, I'll take the blame for it. I'll take the blame for it. All right, so we're gonna do a character creation. We'll do that first. Now, character creation for Savage Worlds, I mean, everybody, is super easy. I mean, it's super, super, super easy. And once you do this once or twice, it it's a piece of cake. Now, the first thing you're going to want to do is there's no classes in no classes. There's no classes in Savage Worlds. So the first thing you're going to want to do is choose your race. All right? When you choose your race, you're going to get some bonuses, just like you would playing a D20 game or a 3D6 like Dragon Age. So you're going to choose your race. And the races that you can choose in the core book here, there are several races. There are androids, Atlanteans, avians, dwarves, elves, half-elves, half-folk, half-orcs, human, Rixashans, Saurians. So you can see that not only is there fantasy, but there's other stuff too, like Atlanteans, and so and the androids. So it's not like this is just for fantasy. This is for everything. But the majority of the games that you play are going to have the human. So we will go ahead and choose the human. All right. So we'll say that we're going to be making a zombie apocalypse character. So we're going to choose human. All right. We're going to go with the choice of human. So for the bonuses for the hero, for the human, I'm sorry, you're going to get +1 edge. All right, you get +1 extra edge. But if you're playing a fantasy, if you're playing fantasy or another game with races and stuff, then here's an example. Here's one example for you. Say you're going to play a dwarf. All right, so the dwarf would have low light, dark vision. They would be slow. So instead of having a pace of 6, they would have a pace of 5. And here's also tough. So dwarves are stout and tough. They start with a D6 instead of D4. So, and we'll go over the stats. There's only 5 abilities in this. So, Rad, to answer your question, there's no giants in this core book, but depending on what game you're playing, like Hellfrost or Shintar, I'm sure there's probably a giant type of race. And in that player's book for that game will go along and coincide with this, so you'll have 2 books to pull races from. Obviously, you're not going to play the android or the Atlantean in a Hellfrost setting, but you would play the other races, and then plus the other races that setting would give you. Simple as that. You have your core rules, and then everything else goes. Usually the other games have a core book. Hellfrost has a player's book. Deadlands has a player's book. Shintar has a player's book. Weird Wars has a player's book. Pirates has a player's book. All these, all these games, Solomon Kane, Rippers, they all have player's books. So the player's book for the game that you're playing will have a whole bunch more races if they apply. They'll have more hindrances, more edges, and possibly changes to skills and stuff. So, alright, so for a human, that's it. You choose your race, human. So we're doing modern day zombie apocalypse, alright? So the next thing you're going to want to do, guys, is your traits. Alright? Now your traits are your ability scores. Alright, that's the second thing we're going to do. Traits. Alright, and traits are basically your ability scores, and I'm going to put that in parentheses. Because we're going to kind of I know most of you guys in the chat are D&D and Pathfinder fans. So we're going to kind of cross-reference things and use terminology from other games to make you understand Savage Worlds a little bit easier. Because you can refer to it as, oh, okay, an ability score. But your traits are your ability scores, all right, in Savage Worlds. There's 5 of them. There are 5, all right? There is agility. There is smarts, which is smarts. There's spirit. There is strength. And then there is vigor. Alright? Those are your 5 stats in the game. That's it. Those are your 5 stats. 5 stats. Those are your 5 traits. They all start at a D4. Okay? Everyone starts with a D4 roll. Alright? Easy. Now, I'm going to talk to you about one other thing about character creation besides for the abilities. Well, the traits. Every target number, or DC, as we would use in a D20 game, every DC in Savage Worlds, every target number is a 4. Alright, a 4. That's it. So that's why everything here is a D4. So if you're going to make a strength check, if you're going to make a strength trait roll in Savage Worlds, if you're going to bust down that door, you need a 4. That's it. You need a 4. Of course, there are other variables like -2 or +2, depending on certain situations. In your Dungeon Master or Game Master, as they call them in Savage Worlds, they'll give you the modifier. So if we're going to bust down this door, I got to roll a D4 because my strength is a D4, and I have to have a 4 because that's the target number for every single thing except for attacking someone. All right. So let's roll this. I rolled a 1. All right. I rolled a 1. I did not break down that door because I have a pretty low trait of a strength of a D4. So that is to kind of explain Savage Worlds. Just really quickly to touch on traits. Now, when you make your character in Savage Worlds, you get 5 points to upgrade traits. Okay? 5. You get 5 points to upgrade traits. Now, when you upgrade a trait, that means that you raise the die. Alright, you're raising the die type. So, say I'm going to go with this zombie apocalypse. I want a very heavy-hitting melee guy. I want a bruiser. I want Boris Petrovic. I want like a rushing brawler. You know what I mean? I want Fedor. That's what I want. So, what I'm going to do is, seeing that you start with a base of D4, I'm going to invest a couple of my points and upgrade my strength. So, I want to take my strength to a D8, alright? So, when I take my strength to a D8, that means that I upgraded from a D4 to a D6 and then a D6 to a D8. That took 2 of my 5 points away. So, now I only have 3 points left to spend, and I have a D8 strength now. So now to hit that target number 4, I get an eight-sided die to roll this time. And as you can see, I rolled a 4. So I would have broke down that door. Now, here's another thing that I want to throw in with traits that really has nothing to do with character creation. It does, but it doesn't. Alright? Every character that is played by someone like you or I is called, they're actually called, there's a special name for them, and I believe that they are called they're a wild die type of character. So not only am I going to get to roll that D8, seeing that I am a wild die character, a special character, then I also get to add a D6 in there. They're separate individual rolls, they don't add together, but your wild die is a D6, always. So you're kind of getting like an oh shit, get out of jail free type of roll. You know, and you're a wild die player, which is called a wild card. So now to break down this DC of 4 door, I get to roll both of them. And you can see, wow, look at that. That is known as a critical failure. When you roll a 1 on your primary die, and I'm glad I rolled that, and I rolled a 1 on the wild die, that's bad. The GM's supposed to come up with something super nasty for you, like you would fall and maybe break a leg or something. So we'll roll that again. Now see, wow, holy crap, this is awesome because I rolled maximum on these, so I would have been successful with that D4. All right, and you can upgrade your primary die for any kind of trait up to a D12. But you can also take special edges once you get up into the higher levels, and when you advance your character, you can actually advance up to, I believe, a 12 plus 4 to a maximum of 12 plus 4, depending on what type of edges you take. So let's go ahead and round out the last of our traits. So agility has to do with attacking, basically. So we want to upgrade this too. So let's put D8 agility also. So we have 1 point left to upgrade. So let's go ahead and do let's upgrade vigor to a D6. All right. So we're going to go ahead and still have a D4 smarts and a D4 spirit. So we've spent our 5 points. As you can see here, we spent 1 point upgrading vigor from 4 to 6. We spent 2 points going from strength 4 to D8, and then agility D4 to D8. Now also take into consideration, if you play other settings that actually allow races, some races automatically give you, like an elf would start with a D6. That doesn't count as part of your 5. So you have to take that into consideration also when you're making a character. All right. So that's it. That's the second thing. The third thing you need to do is your skills. And your skills are basically the same thing. The roll works pretty much the same way as your trait rolls. All right. So for your skills, you get 15 points to spend. All right. And your skills, which they are in the core book, there are pages of skills. These skills are basically the skill rolls work just like the skill rolls would in Pathfinder and 3.5 and 4th and 5th edition. So there's boating, which is based off of agility. There's climbing based off of strength. There's driving based off of agility, fighting's based off of agility, and fighting is all melee type of fighting, melee only. There's gambling based off of smarts, there's healing based off of smarts, intimidation based off of spirit, there's investigation based off of smarts, knowledge, which is very abstract. You can do knowledge whatever you want. So, for example, Betty, played by Miss Scarlet in my Thursday zombie game, she did knowledge cinema. So there's no knowledge cinema in the book, but seeing that with her background, her character is a PhD professor from the University of Minnesota, then she went ahead and took knowledge smarts. Well, knowledge smarts with, connected to cinema. So any time that she would do any kind of like roles with knowledge on zombies or monsters, including cinema or books, then she would use that knowledge cinema role, and it's actually worked out for her quite a bit. There's and you can do knowledge, science, but if you can't really do broad things, you need to be more specific on what you're going to do for a knowledge role, like science, biology. I'm sorry, knowledge biology, or knowledge chemistry, or knowledge, fishing, or knowledge religion, or, it has to be specific. Then there's lock picking, which is based off of agility. Notice, which is basically perception. It's based off of smarts. Persuasion is based off of spirit. Piloting is basically flying anything. Jetpacks to helicopters to airplanes, and that's based off of agility. Repair is based off of smarts. Riding, which is like horses and stuff like that, that's based off of agility. Shooting, which is one of your other types of attacks, it's based off of agility. Stealth is based off of agility. Streetwise is based off of smarts. Survival smarts. Swimming agility. Taunt smarts. Throwing, which is the third and final way to attack. Throwing is just like it says, throwing hammers, axes, knives, daggers, Chinese stars, throwing implemented objects at people. So it'd be throwing agility. Tracking is smarts. So you have those, and plus, like I said, depending on the game that you're going to play, maybe they may change skills. They for instance, Hellfrost. We're playing a fantasy setting. In the player's book, it says, get rid of piloting out of the core book, because piloting does not make sense in a fantasy setting. However, riding does. So that's how the books kind of go back and forth with each other. It's really, it's super easy, So you get 15 skill points, and you don't have any, and they all start at a D4. So let's say I'm going with this brawler type, okay? Let's do and here's another cool thing about this. We're going to do first off, we're going to do fighting, okay? We're going to take fighting. And we're going to make this it costs 1 point to get it to D4. Because you got to have, it costs 1 point. So I have 14 points left. Now, you're going to notice fighting, like I said, is based off of agility. All right, that's based off of agility. So my agility is a D8. So I can literally take my fighting to a D8, which is going to cost me 3 of my 15 points. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's raise my fighting up to a D8. All right, I have 12 points left now. Now I can take my fighting over a D8, but instead of 1 for 1, it's going to cost me 2 for 1. So 2 for 1. So if I want to take my fighting to a D10, then it's going to cost me 2 more. So it's going to cost me D4, D6, D8, and then 2 more to go to D10. So that means that I would have 10 points left. But whenever you advance in level, you're going to be able to raise your base, your base traits, or you'll be able to upgrade skills. So I think the 2 for 1 is really not worth it, but it's up to you. It's your character. But for this instance, I'll go ahead and I'll spend the extra 2 points and do the D10. So it totally makes sense. So to go over a certain, threshold that you have, D8, you have to spend more. Makes sense. All right. So we'll do shooting too. I'll be able to shoot guns and stuff. All right. Well, let's do the same thing. Well, I'm going to go to we're going to go D10 fighting, and I'm going to go D8. I'm just going to go 1 for 1. It's based off of agility also. All right, so that's it. I mean, it's basically I've spent now 8 points, so I have 7 points left. I can do notice. Now notice is based off of smarts. All right, I have a D4, so man, my notice is going to be really poor. But I'm not going to invest anything else into it. We'll do medicine. All right, I think medicine that's based off of. Medicine's based off of smarts too, I think. Healing, I'm sorry, it's called healing, my bad. Healing. That's based off of smarts, so I'm going to keep that a D4. And you can see the trend, and then you'll spend your 15 points, alright? Piece of cake. So, that's like your characters is a good portion of it's already done. So after you spend your 15 points, you can't save them, you spend them. The next thing you need to do is choose your edges and hindrances. Okay? Edges and hindrances. Hindrances go along with edges. So if you get, basically it works out like this. You get 4 points to spend. Alright? 4 points to spend for this. Each edge, which is basically for 5e terminology, is called a class feature. So if you're playing D&D 5e and you get, say, you get to choose a different feature from, say, level 1 fighting style for the fighter, that that would be the same thing as choosing, because, like I said, there's no classes in Savage Worlds. You just kind of base your stats and your skills around the type of character you want to play. But then you can take edges, and you can actually take something called Paladin or Druid later on and get different bonuses for it. And it's called an edge. So every character starts the game with 2 edges. Alright, now remember, we're a human, so we get an extra edge. So we get to start with 3 edges. Now, one of those edges we don't have to have any hindrances for. So each edge is worth 2 points. Alright, each edge is worth 2 points. You can offset that. There are hindrances that you have to take for each edge. Like I said, there are major ones and then there are minor ones. So for each edge you can take 1 major or 2 minors. And there are a ton of different hindrances. And the hindrances are in the book after the skills, and there are. I'll just read a couple of these hindrances for you. There is a here's one called All Thumbs. This is a hindrance called All Thumbs. It's a minor, and some people just are not good with modern devices. Characters with this drawback suffer a -2 penalty to the repair skill at all times. In addition, when a hero uses a mechanical or electronic device, a roll of 1 on a skill die, regardless of the wild die, means the device is broken. The damage usually requires a repair roll at -2 and a d6 for the amount of time to fix it in hours. So that's one type of hindrance. Here's another type of hindrance called bad eyes. Your hero's eyes just aren't what they used to be. With glasses, there's no penalty, and the hindrance is only minor. But should you lose your glasses, generally a 50% chance when you're wounded, or, if you don't have a nerd strap, they call it, then you'll suffer a -2 penalty to any trait rolls made for shooting or noticing something more than 5 squares away from you. And it's really cool. So every time you take something, you have to take a hindrance. It's really cool. And there's a bunch of them. Here's another one. Here's one called Yellow. And this is a major. Not everyone has ice water in his veins. Your hero is squeamish at the sight of blood and gore and terrified of coming to harm. He subtracts 2 from all his fear-based spirit checks. So every time you would have like a spirit check, well, they used to call it guts, but it's now called spirit, you would do a -2 because you have the yellow hindrance. And you need to play your hindrances, because if you don't play your hindrances, you don't get any benefits, which are rewards that you get for playing your hindrances. So don't think you're going to take 2 hindrances and just never play them, because the GM will eventually start like ripping you apart. I'll give you one example. Puck, played by Lord, in my Thursday game, they basically cut his arm off after he was bitten and wounded by a zombie. All right, when he got his arm cut off, he automatically acquired the one-armed, which is a major, it's called one-arm, the hindrance, because he's only got one arm. So whether by birth or battle, your hero has lost an arm. Fortunately, his other arm is now his good arm. Tasks that require 2 hands, such as climbing, suffer a -4 modifier. So if he's doing any kind of climbing, -4. Just because he's got the one-arm hindrance. So it makes sense, you know what I mean? So let's choose a couple. Let's choose a couple hindrances, shall we? Let's go with. And there's one leg too. Let's go with bad luck. We'll say that I have the hindrances. Well, I know I'm going to choose 2 edges, so my hindrances, I'll write those first. I think there's, oh my goodness, I totally butchered it. I think it's HINDRANCES. Yeah, that's it. Hindrances. Alright. My pencil is drying out. So I'm going to choose, basically, you can choose it like this. You have 4 points you got to spend, all right, on hindrances if you're taking edges. There's some other optional stuff in the book too, where you can take extra money and stuff like that, but we're just going to do the base stuff, and I'm going to choose basically 4 points worth of hindrances. Now, like I said, majors are worth 2 and minors are worth 1. So I'm going to take the first one. I'm going to take is I'm going to take Big Mouth. All right, it's a major. All right, so that satisfies one of the edges that I'm going to take. And bad mouth is loose lips sink ships, the saying goes. Your hero's mouth could drown an armada. Your character cannot keep a secret very well. He reveals plans and gives away things best kept among friends, usually at the worst possible time. So if you're in a tavern, you're starting to drink, you just start talking shit, about what you're going to do, and you're going to beat the hell out of everything. You know what I mean? It's going to be great. Jub said take the ugly hindrance, which I'll take the ugly hindrance. All right, the ugly hindrance is a minor, so that means that I have 3 points spent. And what this minor hindrance does is ugly. Unfortunately, this individual hit more than a few ugly sticks on his way down the tree of life. His charisma is lowered by 2, and he is generally shunned by members of the opposite sex. That's pretty funny. So let's go ahead and say I have one more minor to take. So let's say that poverty. Let's say that I have poverty as a hindrance too. All right. This means I had a very poor upbringing. Your hero has some minor foible that is usually Let's see. No, it said a fool and his money are soon parted. Your hero is that fool. He starts with half the usual money for your setting and just can't seem to hang onto funds acquired after play begins. In general, the player halves his total funds every game week. Every game week. So poverty is another minor. All right. And like I said, there's 1, 2, 3, 4. There's like 4 pages of hindrances. All right. Hey everybody, howdy. So I took my Sorry to break into the Savage Worlds character creation, but there was one more thing that I failed to mention that I would like to kind of jump in here now and mention. Talking about hindrances and edges. Now, as you can see, I just chose the 3 hindrances, which equaled out to a major and 2 minors. It does go by a point system. So the major hindrance is worth 2, and the minors are worth 1 apiece to equal your 4 points to spend, and then your edges would cost you 2 points apiece. So, and then I had the human, the right human race, which netted my 3rd edge. So there's also something optional in the hindrances and edges section to where you can forego taking edges and you can spend an additional 2 points instead of gaining that edge, which is a very a nice thing to have as an edge. But you can substitute the edge and take 1 attribute. You can raise 1 attribute by a die. All right. All right. So, for instance, if you have a strength at sorry, my pen is kind of dying here. So if you have a strength at D8, you could forego taking your edge. You could take your 2 points and instead buy a dice upgrade, which would then take it to a D10 to start. All right, but just like I said, you won't get an edge. So maybe that might be worth it, seeing that you start with an extra edge as a human. So if there were 2 edges that you really wanted, maybe consider taking 2 of those points and maybe raising 1 of your attribute dies up. Now there are a couple 1-point purchases also. All right, and we're going to put a 2-point optional purchase up here. And I'm going to... And then there are several 1-point optional purchases as well. Now, these 1-point optional purchases, you can take one of 2 things. You can gain another skill point. So you can gain a skill point, and that means 1 skill point. Now, when you gain the skill point, it doesn't say if you can raise it past the threshold of the tied ability, the attribute. So I would say you cannot use that 1 skill point to go over your maximum. Although the book doesn't say that, and if you want to talk to your game master, maybe he or she will allow you to do that. So here's another thing. You can also increase your starting funds by 100%. Pretty nice. So if you're playing like if you're playing Hellfrost, for example, you start with 500 shields. If you take the extra, increase starting funds, it would move to 1,000. Which would be a lot. But just think, if you take the skill point and the extra money, you're not going to get that edge. So here's a couple optional things, and I kind of wanted to break into the video real quick, and I'm sorry for doing that, and I usually don't, but I just wanted to give you these optional purchases that you could also do besides taking an edge. Edges are cool. Edges are awesome. So my first edge, and the edges are basically after in the book or the PDF is after all of the different hindrances. Now there are different types of edges. There are basically background edges, basic background edges. There are combat edges that are more, as it says, combat orientated. There are leadership edges, which you can give bonuses and act like a utility. There are professional edges, which are more, this basically you can buy things like assassin, champion, gadgeteer, investigator, jack of all trades, ace, acrobat, unholy or holy warrior. You could buy things like MacGyver or mentalist, Mr. Fix-It, scholar, thief, wizard, woodsman. There's social edges that are based off of your spirit, how charismatic you are. And then there's really weird edges that you can get also. And then at the very end, there's wild card edges too. Seeing that you're a wild card, you can buy these, and they'll give you extra damage on like a hit or something. And then there's legendaries, which legendary edges, you have to basically be very, very high level. Well, you have to advance quite a bit before you get any kind of legendary stuff. So let's take 3 edges, okay? We get to take 3 edges. So what I want to do is I'm going to use like this guy's going to use like I don't know, like a spiked club or some crap like that. So let's go ahead and go with, first off, let's go with Brawler. Alright. My first edge is Brawler. It's obviously a combat edge. And Brawler there's requirements for all of these edges. So you start the game as a novice character. Alright. I'm a novice, so the requirements are novice and strength of a D8. I have a strength of a D8. And I'm a novice, so I can have Brawler. So I have Brawler now. And Brawler is frequent fights with his bare hands have given the Slug a powerful punch. When he hits a foe with a successful barehanded fighting roll, he gets +2 to damage. So, barehanded. I'm just going to go barehanded. That's +2. So, basically, Brawler would work good equivalent to like a monk in D&D. Alright, so I'm basically just going to go Brawler. We'll go with like Brass Knuckles or some shit like that. That's how I'm going to fight these zombies. So we'll go Brawler, +2 damage, bare hands. Alright. Alright, so let's go ahead and go with I would probably say, I'm thinking ambidextrous, because when you attack with 2 hands, when you attack once and then attack with your other hand, you get penalties for that. But seeing that I'm going Brawler, I think I may take ambidextrous also. Alright. So what ambidextrous does is I have to have novice, so I'm a novice, and I have to have a D8. Alright? I have to have a D8 agility. So I settle both of those requirements. So this means that your hero is as deft with his left hand as he is with his right. Characters normally suffer a -2 penalty when performing physical attacks with the offhand. So with this edge, your warrior negates the -2 penalty for using his offhand. Alright? Piece of cake. Pretty good. I like that. So I won't have to worry about that. So I want to look for one more, which is going to kind of go with that anyway. I believe it is it two-fisted? I believe. Okay, yep, there we go. Two-fisted. There we go. Two-fisted. Alright, this is my third and my final. Now, two-fisted. Now, whenever you attack, you get one action in Savage Worlds. You get one action. So if you pull your weapons out, that's one action. Well, if you pull a weapon out, that's one action. If you attack, you're attacking -2. If you're doing some kind of intimidating skill check along with that, then that's an accumulative -2. So the more things you do in a round for your turn, the more minuses you get. Which, another thing that really makes a lot of sense to me. So I'm going into battle with my my two hands. All right, I'm going to attack first, normal. Now my second action is -2. So this two-fisted, basically what two-fisted does is a two-fisted hero is not ambidextrous, but I already took ambidextrous to get rid of the the -2 offhand penalty. -2 offhand penalty is a totally different penalty than -2 multi-action penalty. So ambidextrous is getting rid of the -2 offhand, and two-fisted is getting rid of the multi-action negative modifier for attacking. So a two-fisted hero is not ambidextrous. He simply learned to fight with two weapons, or both fists at once. When attacking with a weapon in each hand, or bare-fisted, he rolls each attack separately, but ignores the multi-action penalty. Perfect. So this negates offhand. Alright. And two-fisted negates multi-action. So now I'll get two attacks around, even though it was very costly, very costly, very costly. So I'll get two attacks around with no negative modifiers, and I'll do +2 damage to my rolls. Awesome. That's awesome. So I truly have a brawler. This is a true brawler right here. All right, so now that I've selected my edges, the next thing you need to do is choose your gear. Core rulebook states that you get $500 or 500 of whatever type of currency, like for instance, Deadlands uses American money, so you would have US dollars, you would have silver dollars, you would have $20 gold eagles, so you would get $500 in whatever type of currency you wanted. Hellfrost, they have gold shields, so I would get 500 gold. We'll say that we're going to play modern day Apocalypse, so I'm going to have the next thing, which is 4, which is hindrances and stuff. 5 is your gear. You get $500 to spend on whatever setting, alright? And then it's, like I said, it's whatever setting you're playing, whatever the money's called. Alright, so you buy your gear, and then the last thing you do is your background. So that's it, guys. I mean, that's so easy to make a character. So easy to make a character. That's it. And like I said, whatever game you're going to play, it's going to add more races. It's going to add more skills or take skills away from the core book. It's going to add more edges, a lot more edges. Like Hellfrost, there's 3 expansion books for Hellfrost. So there's probably 10 pages, 15 pages of nothing but more edges and hindrances for that setting to go along with the stuff in here already. You know, and then every setting's going to have more gear, and it's great. So there's my brawler, Modern Day Zombie Apocalypse. He's ugly as shit. He's poor. I lose half my money at the beginning of every game, but I can kick some frickin' ass, right? I can kick ass. So let's go ahead and finish the last thing we need to do. We need to finish our derived stats. All right. There's 4 stats that are called derived stats that you need to figure out. All right. These are, the first one is called charisma. We all know what charisma is. Everybody by default starts with a 0 charisma, unless you have a hindrance or an edge that gives you a bonus or a negative modifier to it. Of course, I have ugly, because I'm ugly as shit. I'm like, I guess I would be like Chunk from the Goonies. Chunk from the Goonies was one ugly SOB, but he could sure fight. So, if ugly gives me -2 charisma, which it does, my charisma, my total charisma score is going to be -2. All right, there you go. Let me do that so I don't confuse you. My charisma is going to be a -2. Piece of cake. So everybody by default starts at 0, and in edges and hindrances adjust your charisma. The second thing we need to worry about is pace. All right? Pace is equivalent to movement. Every character basically by default gets a 6, unless you have a special race or something that would give you a bonus or an edge or a hindrance. Like if you have the one-legged, hindrance, then I believe one-legged would give you -2 or -2 to your speed, I think. So let's check out one-legged. One-legged, yeah, it reduces your pace by 2. -2. But I don't have anything that gives me any kind of negative modifier. So my pace would be a 6, all right? My pace is 6. My movement is 6. Next is my parry. Parry. How we are gonna, this is basically your parry is your armor class. Using terminology from D20 games, parry is basically your armor class. Alright? And to figure out your parry is a base of 2. Alright? A base of 2 plus half your character's fighting. Half your character's fighting. Okay? So, if you don't have any fighting, your parry's going to be 2, and you're going to be so easy to hit. Now, seeing that I have a fighting of a D10, I take half the 10, which is 5, add it to the base of 2, giving me a 7 parry. So that's pretty much my armor class. Alright? Now, there are other things that modify your parry. You can get armor. Seeing that we're playing modern day, maybe I get a Kevlar vest. Maybe the Kevlar vest will give me a +1 parry or a +2 parry. Now, you also got to take into consideration if you're being hit in the leg, you're ignoring that +2 from the torso. You know what I mean? So then you would go and revert back to the base of 7. Piece of cake, guys. Parry. And that's basically your armor class. And the last thing we need to worry about is toughness. And I'm going to put toughness here. Alright. Toughness is a really unique, it's something new that is not in any kind of D20 D&D game. However, something like this is in both a Song of Fire and Ice and Dragon Age. What toughness is toughness is your hero's damage threshold. Okay, anything over your toughness for damage is going to basically make you rattled or even worse. All right, so to figure out your toughness is a base of 2 plus half your hero's vigor. All right, I'll say that again. It's 2 plus half your hero's vigor. All right. So my vigor sucks. So I have half of 4, which is 2, plus my 2 base is a 4. So I have a toughness of 4. Basically, I'm a glass cannon. I'm going to do a bunch of damage, but I'm going to take probably a lot of wounds. Now, I also believe that your armor, I think that the armor does not affect parry, now that I think about it. Your armor affects toughness. So that's what it does. Your armor affects toughness. So basically, if somebody rolls, 3 damage on me, 3 damage does not mean I just eat the blow. Basically. Now, if they roll a 4 or a little bit higher, then that means that they hit me and they basically shake me. There's a condition called shaken. Shaken is nasty, and I'm going to get into that in the next tutorial. But guys, gals, this is how you figure it out. This is how you make a character. I mean, I explained everything, and it maybe took 30, 45 minutes. So that's not too bad there. Not too bad. Oh, my vigor is a D6. I totally butchered that. I was looking at the wrong column. So yeah, my vigor is D6. So my toughness would not be a 4. Sorry about that, guys. My toughness would be a 3 plus 2 a base, which would be 5. So 5's a little bit better. Still sucks, but I'll still kick a lot of ass, though. I'll be burning a lot of bennies, getting rid of shaken and wounds. So that's it. Sorry, guys. I looked at the wrong column for that. So thanks for bringing that to my attention. So that's pretty much everything on making a character, guys. It's simple as that. Seriously. Savage Worlds, man. So easy. That's why they have a slogan called Fast and Furious. You can literally make a character in like a couple minutes and rejoin the game when your other one dies. Or, have a bunch of characters ready. So, that's it. That's how you make a character. It's really easy. Hope you guys